Welcome to Emerald Lake. I'm Raven, and I'll be showing you how to make an origami lotus flower. First off, I usually use any kind of paper that is square, but for a lotus specifically, it can be really hard to make sure that it all stays together. If you use a stiff paper, it might rip, along with some of our steps. So be sure to grab origami paper for your first time with this. It'll make it a lot easier. Alright, here's the instructions for the lotus and a few examples. I'll be adding the PDF below. But here we go. So I have here 2 lotus flowers stacked within each other because I think that they're very fun like that. But here is a bigger version of the lotus. This is with tissue paper, which I would not recommend trying to use until you've gotten very familiar with origami, because it's a little bit difficult. But it is very flexible, which is very helpful for the lotus specifically. Otherwise, here are some of the little ones with regular paper. You can see on the bottom they're regular origami paper that have white on one side and color on the other. These are smaller than the typical origami paper size, but this is the size of a full-size one, and we'll be grabbing our paper in a second. It's very important to have real origami paper for this one, at least for the first few lotus flowers that you make, because they can be very stiff and difficult to work with if it's not. I have here pattern on one side, red color on the other. We'll be using the red as our color for the lotus. You shouldn't see the other color except in the little bit and the bit at the back. So do not try to use a stiff paper, don't try to use a sticky note at the first stuff, and even with this, it might rip. It's okay, you'll learn as you go along, and I'll try and show you a couple of tips on how to do this so that it doesn't rip, but even as I make it, it might rip on me a little bit. You're gonna find out together. The first few steps of the lotus are just guidelines. They will make it harder to finish it without ripping. What I recommend is not confidently creasing the guidelines or trying to skip them altogether. I'll show you what less confidently creasing them would be and what skipping them altogether would look like. But you start with the pattern or the side that you don't want to see up. You want the color on the other side, and you'll be folding it in half and in half again like that if you want the guidelines. These lines that will end up being made are where the paper will likely rip as well, which could mean that it rips directly in half. And that's an interesting look, I will admit, but we're trying to avoid it for the first few times so that you still have your full lotus and it doesn't break on you. A non-confident fold version would be get it to your corners, and normally I would have you press down, but I'm just going to press down in the middle because the middle is all that matters, and I'm just going to do that little bit of a fold, and that's it. When I unfold it, it's just a little bit. This isn't folded, that isn't folded, it's just that little bit. Basically what I'm going to do is make crosshairs, and I'm going to do it again with the other side. I've spun it, and I'm going to go again, corners to corners, and then I'm just going to press a little bit in the middle. And now I have crosshairs. I know where the center is. That's all that I'm going to focus on. Now it's hard to see on this paper, but that's how I would recommend doing it, just barely. And even then it might end up tearing on me. But this is origami paper. It should cooperate. If it's a little too thick, if it's a little too stiff, it might rip, but we'll find out. The other way is to take the 2 corners and have them meet in the middle without the guidelines so that you can find the center like this. Basically wherever they meet and match height, so we can see that they're at the same height there, and they're not twisted around, this should be halfway. So this would be skipping the guideline stage. You meet them like this. And then after you've got the rough, you can more confidently crease it. And I'm still not fully confidently creasing those. I'm not using the back of my nails or anything yet, just because I want to double check. I'm going to use the third one, and it's roughly the right place. Okay, so that is good. Because I was using the crosshairs, what I would do is I would kind of fold it a little bit there. I can see that this is it. I'm taking this corner here up to that corner there. You can check. Yep, matches there. Check here. It matches there. And same thing here. Yep. It's happy. It's happy. So that is good. And now I will confidently crease them so that it is set. Now there's a little tiny gap here. Right now, I'm not worried about getting it perfect. I'm worried about getting it done. So don't stress out about it being perfectly lined up. Individuality is always good. And there's going to be little gaps to it later. It's natural. It's not a big problem. So then we'll use the third one. And because there's a little gap on the other side, it's a little bit tight here. That's fine. And there's probably going to be a bit of a difficulty with the final one, where it doesn't line up quite perfect. There's gap and there's overlap. But it's pretty good. So we've made our first fold the corners into a square. And that is the first few steps. According to the PDF, that gets us to the end of step 3. But we're going to go again. The end of step 2. Now we're going to do step 3. We're going to do it all over again, but now we have the centers for our lines. These are going to be our new guidelines. And then we're going to do it again. So you want to bring corners in 3 times in total before you flip it over. So we've got the first corners all in. Let's go with the second corners all in. I'm going to use the 2 corners thing again. Get it to the middle. Make sure it's all lined up. You can use this to make sure it's in the right spot. And then crease it down. They met up. They're at the center. We'll continue bringing them in. There you go. And now the last one. It might be a little bit stubborn because the other ones weren't perfect, but it is good enough. Especially when you're doing it just for the first time, don't worry about it being perfect. I've made a lot of these. I'm nowhere near perfect at this, but I let my paper tell me what it needs to do. I don't fight with it. I don't get overly perfect about it, because it still gives me a Lotus in the end. It'll all be fine. Now do it one more time, bringing the corners in. Maybe fighting with it a little bit just to hopefully try and clarify little hiccups it's giving. And then we more confidently crease it. At this point, you're feeling the thickness of the buildup of the paper now. You've got lots of paper under one spot. It's getting a little bit tough to get it to cooperate. And if your paper is small, you're really feeling that stiffness, that difficulty. But we go through this and get the last one down, and that catches us to step 5. All done. But now we're flipping it over, and we're going to bring in the corners the final time. Now that it's flipped over, we're going to do all the corners into the center again. You should still see the crosshairs from the very start. You'll see I don't have folds here, but I've got a little bit of crosshairs on the edge, right in the middle. So we'll bring the 2 corners in. It's stiff. The paper's been folded a bunch. It's going to be a little difficult. It's not going to want to line up perfectly. It's going to be kind of bunching. This is natural. I'm trying to smooth it out as best I can, but you do not need to worry about it. Yeah, it's not even going to do that. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to cooperate with the paper. We've got that done. We do another one. go. Confidently creasing it down. This is where the confident creases earlier matter a lot. If you folded it really tightly in the previous steps, it'll make it a little bit easier to fold it tightly now, as opposed to leaving it kind of loose. It might be even harder to fold down. But now that we've got this, we're going to be folding in just the corners. And we're going to fold this in just a little bit. It's a little bit up to you how you see fit. When I use the smaller papers, I'll usually just kind of bend with my nail just a little tiny bit because it's so small. But with this size, I'll bring it in just a bit and go about that size. I'm going to try and squish it down as best I can, but it is so thick. It is so thick. We folded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's tough to fold. And then, holding it down with this thumb, I'm going to peel back this. And when I say peel, I mean peel. We're not folding it up and we're not ripping it out. We're very gently, slowly peeling it up. Now I'll try my best to show you how that's done, but it's really hard. You just kind of got to get a feel for it if you've never really done it before. So I'll hold it down with this thumb. My other hand, I'm holding this stiff. And this, I'm trying to peel up. And I'm slowly just kind of pushing, pulling up, and eventually it gets to this point. You don't want to go too far. This is where it tucks in. We don't want to push it. That is how it should look, roughly. We're going to go roughly the same. We're going to fold it in just a little bit. And then we're going to hold that corner still. We're going to lift this one up, hold it, pinch it like that, and then grab this here. And with this thumb, we're pushing back. We're pulling this forward. It's a slow little Yankee pull. We're just trying our best to kind of pull it out gently. And then we're at this much. I'll try and hold this up closer so you can see a closer view of this, but it's hard because I have to have the back to get it to focus. Pinch it down. Just about that much. There you go. I lift this flip up, get my finger underneath there so that I pinch like this. And then with that little flip right here, I am slowly pulling up. This hand is pushing down through the thumb, and this hand is just slowly pulling, peeling it up very gently. And you're doing it again. Get a little bit of a fold here, just that much. Flip up this, slip a finger underneath, and pinch down like that. Keep it still, and then grab that little bit and peel. This thumb pushes down, this thumb pulls up, but both work very gently. And now you've got the first layer. We had done those 3 layers. You've got the first layer up. We're going to do the same sort of peeling action with the next layers. You're going to pinch in between now. So you get under that flap on this side, you peel that back, you get that finger under, get this, hold it still, and you do the same peeling motion, very, very, very slowly and gently. With this one, it's very common to start getting little rips at the corners. That's okay. It's still popping up. Okay, so we grab again, lift that up. There's another layer under here. You don't want to go all the way through yet. You just want the first layer here. You don't want to get that one just yet. Grab that. All right, we're ready. Pinch, peel up. And at this point, it's looking pretty much like our lotus on one side. So we're nearly done. Okay, flip up, finger under, pinch, push with this thumb, peel with this thumb. Last one, flip up. This thumb is going to pinch and then push. This one, peel up. And now it's gotten slowly tighter and tighter in on your thumb as you're holding it in. But you're just nearly done. Now this last step, I would recommend you don't try to peel. You just fold it up. Because peeling is going to be ripping almost every time. You just want to fold it up to the corner. See, I've got a little bit of a rip there already. You just fold it out so that there's a little triangle stick there. This is to sort of mimic the lily pad-ish underneath, really. Less about the petals. Petals are the first two. And this is just the other little bottom of it. I still kind of do a peeling motion to be careful about the tearing. But there we go. And I haven't got any tearing down the middle. Now, I would like to try and show you how it looks when it tears out. I will speed this up so that we see it quickly though. I'll use this paper. It's a double-sided, so we should be able to see the orange pop through. But we're going to start with a full creasing and what it looks like. Now this is also origami paper, but I'm going to crease it very confidently right here in the middle, and I'm sure that it will rip when we get to that point because I have been super creasing it. I want to make sure we see it so that you know what it looks like if it does rip in half, just because it's fun to see a little bit. But alright, from here I'll be quiet and I'll speed it all up so that you're not here watching forever. Okay, so here's our first tear with being aggressive about peeling it. And there we can see the paper splitting. So this is where it's splitting down the middle right here. It's already starting to split just a little bit. Now, if I peel it up the last step, so we've got yellow on the underside. Should be able to see the one that was splitting in the middle. Here we go. Here it's splitting. Okay, here we go. See that split right here? It's split down this line. Now I can force it. It's splitting that little petal open. This is still origami paper, so if you had used something even more stiff, it would have ripped right open. But it'll keep ripping along this line. Like that. So then you'll have half an origami lotus, or in this case, an opened lotus. So this is why you want to be careful with those lines. That's how that works when it rips open. But there you go, that way you know. There you go. I think that's so interesting. The ripped open lotus. There you go. Hopefully yours come out more like these and everything is smooth and steady. Even if there are some gaps, you'll still see the shape that you're after. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you've learned how to make your lotus without it ripping open. And if you'd like to watch any other how-to videos, I've got a few more up now. And I hope you can join me on one of my streams or watch one of our videos on demand to watch the streams back where I make more of my origami. Lots of lotus, cranes, swans, all sorts of little guys. Thanks!